Well, hello again. You're looking at a new man. Those of you on YouTube watching this latest rant of the Midnight Skeptic. Yes, this is the Midnight Skeptic. And on radio, this will be broadcast this coming Sunday, June 23rd at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the usual time. And locally at 103.3 FM, for those of you who have an FM radio, and it is kpca.lp. The LP is low power. The station doesn't get much further than Sonoma County, certainly not down to Marin County or over to the actual town of Sonoma, but we do our best here. My goal, as always, is, in my own small way, to rid this country of GOP MAGA heads, Republicans, and followers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. I've been trying to get that nickname for him to take off by reminding people on Facebook that's what they should start calling him, because he is in fact a bloat bag, and his followers are part of a cult. And maybe let's make America kind again by this November voting out all Republicans, which, it goes without saying, are synonymous with MAGA heads now. Didn't used to be that way, but it is now. Okay, so shout outs. Project Censored has partnered with the magazine The Progressive. They will focus on critical media literacy for the 2024 election. Join their community and, go online and sign up for their book, The State of the Free Press 2024, which is out now. It is out there now, and sign up for their newsletter monthly. It's just chock-a-block full of good information that all lefties should be acquainted with. Okay, Rabbi Ted, who's a retired from B'nai Israel. I met him, 10 years, no, more than that, 15 or 20 years ago. My wife was Jewish, and she and I would go to some of their events at B'nai Israel. By the way, AIPAC, AIPAC, bad people. Ignore them. Do not contribute anything to them. They are as much right-wing as Bibi Netanyahu. Oh, God, I blew that one. Okay, so here goes. John Crowley, at the Aquas Cafe, he has begun a community here in Petaluma of writers, artists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations, and there's a group that I intend to go down to check it out on Monday mornings. Shut up and write. Okay, that's putting it rather bluntly, but they do a lot of things for budding writers, which I consider myself to be one. And every so often they host drinks with shrinks. Ooh, all the shrinks around this area come out of the woodwork and go down to the Aquas Cafe to have cocktails or beer or wine and light dinner fare and discuss their latest insights into the therapeutic community. And Tom Gaffey, the manager of the Phoenix Theater, who is more than just the manager of the Phoenix. He is sort of the godfather of all the alternative teen slash skateboard community. The Phoenix Theater plays music on weekends mainly, occasionally during the week. And their musical fare runs toward the grunge and metal and other alternatives that adults would not like. Okay. Okay. I mentioned Project Censored, but Mickey Huff and his two cohorts, Andy Lee Roth and Nolan Higdon, are the plotters behind their publications. Okay. And Tim Conrad, great photographer here in Petaluma, late of Sonora High School, class of, well, I won't mention his class. That kind of outs him as far as his age goes. Okay, but he and I were in the same class. Okay, Tom and Nancy Throw, Kevin and Lori. Thank you for the card, Kevin. Dave and Rosita Takach, thank you for the well wishes. And they live in Sacramento. Rich and Kathy Berger, enjoy your vacation down south and on the Mississippi River. Dennis and Megan and Tiburon, see you tomorrow. Yvonne and Rick in San Francisco. Stan and Kathy in Pacifica. Aunt Jackie and Melanie, they're visiting in Melanie's new hometown, Austin, Texas. Enjoy your get-together there. And Samantha and her little boy, David, who's just got out of kindergarten. Okay. Brandon and Mina in Arizona. And Andrea, their daughter, my niece, she's a nurse there in Arizona. Her husband, Tim, and their three little boys who are growing up quite fast. Okay, the snake lady in Patagonia, Arizona. She's an animal control officer that you would call if you wake up some morning and there's a rattlesnake curled up in your kitchen. Well, she's the one that you would call, Karina Hilliard. And she's a dedicated skeptic, as am I. And I met her at a skeptics conference, I think it was 2017, down in Las Vegas, where they had this. She's a nice lady. I was very interested in her. She's a biology major, and she loves reptiles and spiders and things that some girls just freak out about. Okay, enough of that. Up to Arkansas, Shannon Reed in real estate and massage therapy. And Florida, Nelson and Alice. I swear, Nelson, I'm going to call you today. On the other side of Florida, I hope you're doing okay with all that heat and rain that's down there. Okay, Amelia Beamer, check her out on YouTube. She represents Locus Magazine on YouTube, and she lets us know what books Locus Magazine is going to be reviewing in the current month. In the three genres: science fiction, horror, and fantasy. If you're a fan of those genres, look her up on YouTube and, I don't know, maybe subscribe to Locus Magazine, or at least read the latest issue, or go online. I think they're online. Okay. And further up, Dr. Dave in Raleigh, Durham area, the world's greatest pulmonary physician. And he's part of, well, he's retired now, but he's part of the Lost Artists Collective in Chicago, which is where he is right now, showing a lot of his works. Okay, Geraldine Goldfinger in Long Island. Okay, back on the West Coast, the Sonora crowd. Robert Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, Brad and Martha are their two children who have their own careers now. Darrell Larson, Judy May, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle. And further up the highway in Twain Hart, John Gleason, and his two daughters, wherever they're living now, they're sort of academic types. Tiffany and Jennifer. Jennifer actually is with Wells Fargo Bank. I'm not sure in what capacity. Maybe a training manager or something like that, which is loosely academic, I guess. Okay, and then all the way down in Mexico City, we have Rosamalia Lopez Negrete, who sends me pictures of tropical birds on my Facebook page. And boy, it's hard for me to believe that they aren't photoshopped. I'm not sure that she photoshops them, but they're just too perfect and beautiful and colorful to not be photoshopped. But if there are birds in the tropical areas of the Yucatan Peninsula that really do look like that, wow. Okay. Sips time. And this is milk, by the way. Good for the throat. Historical good news. Fact: the last Confederate soldier to surrender was Brigadier General Stand Watie. Okay, his first name Stand, last name Watie, capital W-A-I, no, W-A-T-I-E. He was a Cherokee Native American, and it was in 1865 when he surrendered. And I assume he had some of his underlings and troops surrender along with him. But that kind of caught my eye. A Cherokee Indian as a brigadier general in the Confederate Army. Who knew? I didn't know until I ran across this factoid. Okay, more good news. Farmers who graze sheep under arrays of solar panels say it improves productivity of the grass and of the sheep that eats the grass. Okay, it's a separate income stream for farmers because they get to sell their electricity to the power companies, and the sheep's wool productivity improves along with the meat of the sheep. It all improves. It's a win-win-win-win-win situation. Okay? It's a separate income stream, and one caution, they have to be strengthened. The posts that hold up the solar panels have to be strengthened for cattle grazing, because cows like to scratch themselves on these posts, and the farmers learned the hard way that these posts can be knocked down by cows scratching themselves. All right, more good news. And I promised all my listeners out there that I would start off every program with good news. Well, here's some more. All right. A wealth of good news to start this program off. Maybe this is good news. The nuns' numbers have stopped growing. And I don't mean women in the Catholic Church and their habits and their, not those nuns, the NONES. Those are people that, when answering survey questions, say, well, I'm not any religion in particular, or they say, I'm an agnostic, or they say they're an atheist. But those are all lumped in together as nuns. None of the above. I have no particular religion. So those numbers are stagnating now. They're about 35% of the surveyed population here in this country. Okay, I'm off my notes, but I'm riffing. Nuns are not just atheists and agnostics, but on surveys, the answer to religious questions is no religion in particular is part of the nuns group. They total out at about 35% now in 2023. Yay! But a little bit of bad news, their numbers are not really growing. They should be growing. It should be that everybody in this country should be nothing in particular, if not agnostic or atheistic. The theists, especially the Christians, are just bad news, and I'll have more bad news about them later on in this show. Okay, bad news. Two of them, two bits of bad news. There are 14 million members of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is the largest Protestant denomination in this country. And two, they voted to oppose IVF, in vitro fertilization. Well, if Christian women in the Southern Baptist Convention are not allowed to use IVF, well, their numbers will decline even more than they already are. And they are declining. Not fast enough for my taste, but they're declining. And they voted to encourage the government to restrain the use of IVF. Religion, specifically Christians, are just obsessed with things having to do with sex and birthing and babies and fetuses and eggs being fertilized. That's human eggs being fertilized. They're just obsessed with it. And I'll have more about that sort of thing coming up. Okay. I wrote down here, quickie good news. The Southern Baptist Convention is losing membership. Good. The sooner it disappears, which is a long way off, the better. Okay, bad news. Corporations sold Americans on the Chasing Arrows recycling symbol. But most of the single-use plastics that have that symbol cannot be recycled, or at least cannot be recycled easily or economically. Another corporate greenwash. Profits over everything else. Degrowth, which I went into on last week's show, may be the answer. Degrowth is a movement that kind of debunks the good part of GDP. Um, GDP, okay. And now I'm having a brain freeze on what GDP stands for. But every country has a growth and productivity, profitability of their country in general. GDP. Anyway, uh, economists that bow down to the growth of the GDP god are wrong. It should be degrowth. And that's the answer to a better earth for us all to live on. And we won't have to worry about recycling if we just stop using so much plastic, especially single-use plastics. Okay. Okay, another sip. Good news. The Q in the LGBTQ doesn't stand only for queer, which is a previously derogatory term that has been reclaimed by the LGBTQ community. It also stands for questioning, which is a phase in youth where they are trying to figure themselves out. Hell, I'm still trying to figure myself out. But anyway, it feels messy and confusing, more so in some adolescents than others. Everybody should try to figure themselves out and question themselves and their role in society and on this planet. And no, reading a book featuring LGBTQ characters will not turn a kid gay or trans, contrary to what the ignorant GOP Republican MAGA heads try to convince everybody that it will happen. And there's nothing wrong with being turned gay or trans. And if just reading a book will do it, then do it. Religious conservatives, MAGA heads, and members of the cult of the orange sociopathic bloat bag aren't doing any favors to the youth of this country by passing laws in GOP-controlled states making life more difficult for young LGBTQ people. Republicans are too ignorant of the growing up process that all kids go through. Republicans, who are no longer a real political party with real ideas, should have no say in the governance of this country. Please, everybody, this November 5th, vote them all out. If a candidate has in parentheses, an R in back of their name, vote anybody else except for them. Books do not corrupt or adversely change children. Schools do not indoctrinate kids. If anything, religion indoctrinates. Teachers do not sway kids' opinions as much as the GOP would have you have themselves fear. There's more to teaching a subject than just standing up in front of a classroom and saying something about something. Teaching is hard. It's hard to implant an idea in a kid's mind. correct ideas in kids' minds. There's so many factors in the learning process, the growing process. It's not just teachers and not just parents either. Their peer group has a outsized importance in kids' maturing and growth phases that they go through, which is a good thing. I wouldn't want only teachers or only parents to be the determining factor in how a kid matures and grows in his life. All right. Deep breath, deep breath. Good news. Sequencing a baby's genome at birth could save lives. North Carolina has a mandatory newborn screening which tests for more than 60 medical conditions. Parents can have experts conduct a more extensive scan for free and review the blueprint of the baby's genome for more than 200 different conditions. New York also has this available to newborns. It's called the Guardian Program, and it began in 2022. Parents, please take advantage of this. Unless you're one of these inordinately suspicious mogheads, the government's gonna use my baby's genome to control their lives. My man Trump won't let that happen. You see what I mean when I'm ranting? This is a rant. Okay. Good news. Thailand will become the first nation in Southeast Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. Thailand's Senate approved a bill guaranteeing marriage equality. The vote was 134 and 4 against. There's 4 MAGA heads in Thailand? Taiwan approved in 2019 legalization of same-sex marriage. Nepal did it in 2023. 6 backwards GOP U.S. states blocked protections for LGBTQ students, to see the opposite way that the trends are going on Earth. There are some countries that are enlightened, and there's a political party here in the United States that is unenlightened. Okay, bad news. Union Pacific Railroad, one of the big 5, fails to warn workers at their Roseville, California, that's just north of Sacramento, rail yard of toxic carcinogenic contaminants. Well, they're getting in trouble from the unions over this practice, non-warning of workers, and they're being taken to court. Union Pacific is being taken to court. And I don't know why they didn't do this sooner, because there was plenty of evidence that the products that railroads in general haul in their tank cars are carcinogenic, most of them. Okay, the company, Union Pacific, suppressed scientific studies linking asbestos, creosote, benzene, lead, diesel exhaust, and other chemicals that lead to cancer and lymphoma and leukemia, among other things. Rather than spend the money for protective devices, Union Pacific just suppressed the scientific evidence. Corporate, I went on their website, Union Pacific's, and their corporate bullshit says that Union Pacific's Hazardous Materials Management Group is a leader in hazmat goods movement safely. Well, if you believe that, then you'll believe that the plastics industry assures everybody that recycling plastics is the way to go. Railroads haul 20% of chemicals used in the United States. Hello, East Palestine. How is it with the contaminants that were spilled on your doorstep by Norfolk Southern as they were going through your quaint little town? Whew. Good news. The American Climate Corps kicks off this week. This is the new version of the New Deal era CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. Republicans will be sure to hate this one as well. We aren't going to spend any money paying people to do nothing but fix the environment. Republicans don't want to spend money on anything except corporate profits and bonuses for CEOs, tax reductions. Okay. Certainly not free food for school kids. All right. I'm off my notes and I'm riffing. American Climate Corps, Republicans will hate this. Okay, at the inauguration ceremony Tuesday on the 18th of this month, the Corps promised to, quote, work on behalf of our nation and planet, its people, and all its species, for the better future we hold in our sight. Yay. Let me... Okay. More than 20,000 young people are expected to join as a way to jumpstart potential green careers, and they will be paid some minimum wage, like around $15, others more, up into the low 20s per hour, for doing this conservation management jobs. Civilian Conservation Corps. It's a good thing. It's in the Biden administration. Put this together. Okay. Whew. Sort of bad news, but it's understandable. An article in Health magazine by UK psychologist Lucy Foulkes, capital Foulkes, says that with the increasing awareness of mental health issues adds to the self-diagnosis of what is just normal unhappiness or stress in modern life. It's called concept creep. Okay, concept creep is when a new term is introduced into psychology, psychiatry, sociology, and then there's enough people out there that run across this and say, well, I've got that. I better run to see a psychologist and let him diagnose me. All right. I'm off my notes. Increasing awareness of mental health issues adds to the self diagnosis of what is just normal unhappiness or stress in modern life. Concept creep is what I'm talking about. Expanding concepts of harm and pathology. Psychological concepts may expand outward to capture qualitatively new phenomena and symptoms, and expand downward to capture quantitatively more of these issues. Once you get this term going in the public mind, it will expand. There's no stopping it. More people seeking quote unquote help and more therapists reporting more patients seeking help contribute to this concept creep. It always happens when a new issue is brought into public existence. In the current politicized U.S. concerning LGBTQ issues, any young child in their normal seeking for their identity may raise their gender identity as they'll call it a problem that they're trying to solve. A well-meaning, understanding parent may jump on the trans bandwagon. And I'm not saying gender dysphoria is not real. It is. But I have been personally acquainted with a parent who told me, and I used to be a private tutor, and which I'll start again after, I don't know, the start of the new school year coming up. She told me that her young son, who's at that time a freshman in high school, that he was transitioning. And I was fine with that. I told her I have no problems with it. And she said, I just want to let you know that his pronouns are they and them. Okay, I'm fine with that too. Just send him around if he needs help with his algebra. Okay, that's what I do. Okay, so, about a week later, he shows up on my front porch, and it's the kid that I was tutoring back when he was in 7th grade. 8th grade, the schools were kind of closed, and it was difficult to, for him to keep up with his studies, let's say. Okay. So he came in and sat down at the desk that I use for tutoring. And we just had a normal conversation. Not once did I ever use the pronouns they or them. And I'm not against them if a person who is transitioning or is unsure of their gender identity wants me to address them as they or them or whatever. I'm fine with it. I'll do it. But it just didn't come up. And he had long hair, longer than the usual hair. And he, in my viewing of him as he presented himself to me, he was just the kid I used to know and tutor back in 7th grade. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what he was going through and who were the other professionals in his life that was trying to help him with his identity issues. So we talked about that for a while, and about 45 minutes of our hour went by, and we still hadn't done any of his algebra. So I mentioned that to him, and he had a sheet of homework that his teacher had given him, and I said, okay, let me make a copy of this. Let me do the second 2/3 of these problems, and you do the first third. I just want to know that you know how to do them. And, it's just to get the damn thing done. So I did it, and he did his part. And I watched him do one to make sure that he was going through the right procedure, the right steps to solve an algebraic problem. And he was fine. And there have been other mothers that I'm aware of that I didn't have such direct contact with, that the mother was just eager to, it seemed to me, eager to have a trans kid. Well, that's the hip thing to have. Okay, if that's how they are, that's fine, as long as the kid is fine. That's who I worry about. And all right, I am way off my notes. Jumping on the trans bandwagon for ultra hip parents. Okay, it is a real thing, but not every kid who raises the issue of gender dysphoria really will have it, or wants to pursue other avenues to deal with it. Okay, all right, enough of that. One thing we don't need in this country are Republican politicians meddling in the issue of trans kids. They're just in favor of banning everything. Jesus wouldn't like it. God only made two distinct genders. To hell with how they feel. They need to pray more. Okay, that's a bona fide rant. Another sip. This is the end of it. I gotta get going. Okay, horrible news. Horrible news. Pangolins, sometimes known as scaly anteaters, are mammals that are nocturnal and eat mainly ants and termites. They live in sub-Saharan Africa and East Asia and Indonesia. They have scales instead of fur. The scales are made of keratin, same thing that our fingernails are made out of. Unfortunately for them, they are the most trafficked animal in the world, both for bushmeat and their scales. Well, what are the scales used for, you might well ask yourself. They're ground up and powdered scales are used in Asian traditional medicine. Also in parts of Africa, traditional medicine. It is believed the ground up powdered pangolin scales is believed to be a cure for cancer and asthma, which is ridiculous, of course. Pseudoscientific, traditional, or ancient wisdom medicine that's been debunked over and over and over. Some people claim, well, it's ancient wisdom. It's been used for 2 or 3 thousand years. So what? It needs to be uh, tested in clinical studies. And and then some of these people will say, "Well, you're too Western in your outlook. We need an Eastern outlook." No, you don't. You need scientific evidence that some of these things really do work, and very few of them do work, especially not powdered uh, pangolin scales ground up and put in whatever they put it in. Pangolins were removed from the People's Republic of China pharmacopoeia in 2020 at last. The IUCN, and I think that stands for the International Union of. I'm not sure what it stands for. They're a medicine and pharmaceutical organization that checks out these things. Okay. The IUCN has pangolins on its red list of threatened species. Jackie Chan, the actor, has made a public service announcement called Wild Aid, which is an outfit that helps wild animals that are threatened. And this particular one was called Kung Fu Pangolin, and it came out in 2017. Check it out online. Whew. Bad news. Micro schools, actually homeschools with 7 or 8 students, are a growing thing. The National Micro Schooling Center, which is an advocacy group, estimates that there are 95,000 micro schools and homeschooling pods nationwide with over 1 million students. The vast majority are Christians sucking up public funding for their voucher-like conservative programs. And states that really emphasize voucher-like programs are, of course, GOP-run states. It is the goal of the Republican Party, GOP MAGA heads, to do away ultimately with public education. They claim that public schools indoctrinate kids. Our man Trump won't let that happen. So in micro schooling, students will be free to learn that the earth is 6,000 years old and Noah saved all of the species on earth on his ark. And pastors speak directly to God. This is a phone call coming in. Okay, I will call them back. Okay. Bad news. Religion as usual. Louisiana just passed a law, I think yesterday, signed by Governor Jeff Landry, that requires the 10 Commandments to be displayed. to be displayed in every classroom in Louisiana. The ACLU has vowed to take it to court as blatantly unconstitutional. There are many versions of the Ten Commandments, Christian and non-Christian. Which version do we put up? The Southern Baptist Convention's version? Yeah, that's what they really mean. Okay. I promised also that I would end every program with good news. Well, here it comes. I'm not sure whether to list this as good news or bad news. Good news that this creep was outed. Okay. Bad news for a young Christian mega church going girl. I hope she's no longer a Christian. And her name was, oh God, I didn't write down her first name, but her last name was Morris. And, oh, yes, my notes are screwed up. The guy's name was something or other Morris. He was pastor of Gateway Church and Sandy Grove Church. He molested a 12-year-old girl, Cindy Clemshire, from 1982 until after 1987. She is now in her 50s, and he has confessed of this after she came forward. And he confessed to a moral failure on his part. And it's in South Lake, Texas, of course. He was, at the time, a 20-year-old traveling preacher and married to his wife, Debbie. And he was considered a youth revivalist in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where this all started. But she finally came forward, and it came out that he did this, and he called her, he referred to her way back when as a young lady. No, she wasn't a young lady. She was 12. She was a little girl. And, reading about this online, he tries to BS everybody and maybe even get his pastorage back. But Southern Baptist Convention preachers, ministers, pastors, whatever you want to call them, are just as bad as Catholic priests. Okay, so that's it for my latest rant. So here we go. Play out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Booyah! Pet your cats. Okay, that's it for another Midnight Skeptic, and I'll come back at you next week. I'm not sure what day I'll be recording this, and I forgot to mention it for this show. It's actually Tuesday, and I'm waiting to watch the Giants versus St. Louis Cardinals down at Rickwood Field. The game has started it's actually the first pitch is 4:15, and it's 4:15 right now. So I will see you again on YouTube. And let's see. This will be going out on the 23rd, Sunday. And then the following Sunday, the 30th, will be the Pride Parade here in San Francisco. So I will see you then next Sunday. You'll see me on YouTube as soon as I get done downloading all this latest rant. So have a good week, people. Bye-bye.